Expensive basher that kind of underperformed, inexpensive basher that no one really knows about that performs amazingly. In today's episode, we're going to compare the two.
Excellent!
All right, so maybe I lied a little bit when I said you guys don't know what this is. In this case, this is the DRC 14210, aka the MJX Hypergo, aka the Jetwood Truggy, aka the Traxxas Mini Maxx needs no introduction. This has been a pretty controversial release by Traxxas. I wanted to wait a little bit before I release this video, let everyone really soak it all in. I find it really funny that I got a lot of hate in the comments by viewers that are pretty new to the channel. I think they think I'm sponsored by Traxxas maybe. I'm definitely not. You guys that have been around a long time know that this is the first Traxxas I've ever reviewed on my channel and the first Traxxas, modern Traxxas, I've ever purchased in my life. I've only got two Traxxases in my collection, a Sledgehammer and a Hawk 2. Because of some of Traxxas's, I would say, semi-recent marketing practices, I just didn't want to support them. But with the mini basher market being as hot as it was, I was honestly intrigued by the Mini Maxx. My review was very positive. I had a lot of fun with it. I think people really want to crap on the Mini Maxx because it can't go 50 miles an hour and jump 300 feet in the air, land on its nose and not break. Now, first we have to address the elephant in the room, and that is that yes, the pot metal gears are not a good design. No doubt about that. In fact, they use a lot of pot metal in the metal portions of the construction of this vehicle, which is just a really subpar quality of pot metal that breaks quite easily when exposed to 3S power or even a hard landing on 2S. This kit comes out of the box with a 2S battery, a 3200 kV brushless motor, and if you run in that factory configuration, you're going to get a ton of enjoyment out of it. Traxxas made a bit of a mistake when they said on their website that you can put a VXL system in this, run it on 3S at 50 miles an hour, and it'll work. It will not. There's a million videos on it, but that's not what we're going to talk about in this video. In this video, we're going to compare this truck, box stock, to a truck that comes to us from a completely different brand, one that's a lot less known. This is from DRC. A lot of you guys have let me know in the comments below that you don't like me supporting some of the direct from China RC brands. And while it's not a huge focus on this channel, we're always going to be primarily focusing on our Tamiyas, Kyoshos, Armas, maybe even some Traxxases, the big brands. This is a segment of the hobby that's become increasingly popular over the last couple of years. And as a hobbyist, as an RC enthusiast, an RC lover, I really want to see what these guys have to offer. Not only that, but these are a great starting point if you're new to the hobby or on a tight budget. Let's face it, a lot of people can't go out and spend $2,000 on an X-Maxx to get started. It's just how it is. A lot of us have been in the hobby for 20, 30, 40 years and still can't afford $2,000 for an X-Maxx. These little cars have their place in the hobby. Remember when you were a kid and you couldn't afford that Tamiya Monster Beetle, so your parents took you to Sears or Radio Shack? At least that was my life. We didn't have a lot of money growing up. So I got the little Nico Lobos that ran on AA batteries. We couldn't even afford to be a turbo hopper, for crying out loud. That's how poor we were. I consider these cars a segue, an introductory into the RC hobby. People are going to buy these cars, have a lot of fun with them and say, you know what? Okay, I like this hobby. I'm going to stick it out. I'm going to try something better. I'm going to go to one of the big brands next to see what they have. It's those reasons that I like to bring these cars on the show, talk about them, showcase them, bash them around a little bit, and show you guys what I know about. Anyway, that's my rant for now. But guys, let's put these two head to head and see what you get out of the box, see which one's the better value, and see which one you guys would prefer as the end buyer, as the user. Let me know in the comments below what you think. The first thing I want to compare these two by, guys, is just the overall look. The Traxxas Mini Maxx is kind of using an antiquated body design. I mean, this whole kind of crazy, flashy, black, multicolor thing, Traxxas has been doing it for a lot of years, and you guys are pretty much tired of it. I read it in a million different comments from 100 different YouTubers. It might be time for something new. That being said, it still does look pretty cool, in my opinion. It's got nice big knobby tires, big suspension. Overall, when you look at the Mini Maxx, you think this thing looks pretty cool. The DRC 14210 also boasts a really cool look. It's got that cab forward, truggy design. I love the spoiler on the back. Also has big knobby tires, very similar to what the Mini Maxx has. An aluminum chassis, four-wheel independent suspension. This guy looks really, really cool when compared to the... This guy looks really, really cool when compared to the Mini Maxx. Does the Mini Maxx look better than the DRC 14210, or does the 14210 look better than the Mini Maxx? In my opinion, I actually think I prefer this body, the black, the gold. This design is just, I'm kind of done with it. This just has a different, more unique look to it that I actually prefer. I had to open the back door there. Huey wants to come in and join in the video. Hello, I'm Huey. The Mini Maxx comes in at 12 scale using 10 scale components. Excuse me, I'm trying to film. The Mini Maxx comes in at 12 scale using a lot of 10 scale components, including differentials, shocks, motor, ESC, even a full scale steering servo. The DRC 14210 or MJX Hypergo comes in at 14 scale, so it is a little bit smaller than the Mini Maxx, but it's got a ton of aluminum upgrade upgrade parts that the Mini Maxx does not have. If we look at the overall length of the Mini Maxx, we're about 13.75 and we're about 12 and a bit for this guy. So the Mini Maxx is a little bit longer than the DRC. It's okay, buddy. We're not busy. We're not working right now. It's fine. The tires on the Mini Maxx come in at about 100 millimeters, whereas the tires on the DRC 14210 are a little bit smaller at about 90 millimeters. One big factor about these two trucks that you guys don't really notice on camera is the weight. The Mini Maxx has got some chonk to it. It's pretty heavy. And for a 14 scale, the DRC is also quite heavy. It's got all aluminum parts. Let's check the weight and see what we're at. Mini Maxx first, 3.6 pounds. The DRC comes in at 2.82 pounds, significantly lighter than the Mini Maxx. And both of these were weighed without a battery, guys, just so you know. One of the cool things about the Mini Maxx is that it has a clipless body system. A lot of companies are going this way, and I think these are just fantastic. One of the only complaints with the DRC 14210 or MJX Hypergo is that these body clips aren't very rigid. They fall out very, very easily. It's a small issue. So a real quick overhead view, guys, really lets you know what's going on with both of these platforms. The Mini Maxx has bigger tires, a longer wheelbase. It's got a little more ground clearance, beefier upper and lower control arms, a full-size steering servo, a 10-scale full-size ESC plus a full-size motor, and it's got a separate receiver hiding inside this receiver box. 10-scale suspension, big beefy universal axles, whereas the 14210, you're looking at thinner upper and lower control arms. We've got a much smaller brushless motor, a much smaller ESC. We do still have a separate receiver, which is nice, and a 3-wire servo, but this is also a smaller servo, not your standard 110 scale size. Both vehicles have full metal drive lines, metal differentials. However, the Traxxas, they've used some pretty dubious material on theirs and it's been known to break. The 14210 has threaded aluminum shocks, big, thick CVDs in the front and the back, and an aluminum chassis that can take a beating. The Mini Maxx has got plastic shocks at all four corners, plastic universals in the front and the rear, and a plastic chassis that's now starting to get a bit of a reputation for braking. And of course, one of the biggest elements in making your RC purchase decision is price point. The Mini Maxx comes in at $369 Canadian, which is up there for a mini basher in this market. The price on the 14210 does tend to vary on Amazon. At time of filming this, it's still under $200 Canadian. I've seen coupons available as well. I've seen it available as low as 170 Canadian, which is nuts, as high as 230 Canadian. So let's just aim right in the middle and say $200 Canadian for this, 370 Canadian dollars for this. You can buy almost two of these for the price of one of these. In their stock format, both trucks are extremely tough and very capable and a lot of fun. In testing both of these, I did manage to break both. The Mini Maxx, I broke the front part of the chassis right there after a really, after a really brutal nosedive in the skate park. In that same skate park, I broke a steering tie rod end on the MJX Hypergo. I had a blast ripping them both around. It's hard to pick a favorite. So of these two cars, which one would you guys spend your money on? Let me know in the comments below. I'd really like to hear what you guys have to say. In my opinion, it comes down to you, the RC enthusiast at the end of the day. Which car is right for you? I'm not going to come on the show right now and say one of these is better than the other. In my experience, they both did exactly what they're intended to do. They both put a huge smile on my face. They both had that awe factor when other people are watching them rip around, whether it's a skate park or ripping through mud puddles. People stop and stare at them and think, holy cow, that thing is awesome. At the end of the day, what makes one of these better than the other is up to you. If you're on a $200 budget, this is an amazing starting point. You're going to have so much fun with something like this. If you're on a $400 or $500 budget, you can also run this on standard format 2S and have an absolute blast with it. There's no right or wrong answer in my opinion. It's all about what you want. Personally, I think both these cars are fantastic. I've given them both very positive reviews. Sure, they both have strengths and weaknesses, but let me know in the comments below what you guys think. Which one would you go for? Regardless of budget, let me know. Thanks again for watching Poor Boys RC, guys. Be excellent to each other.